The information and views expressed by our host or guests on the Unlock Potential podcast are their own, and not a substitute for professional medical or fitness advice. Always consult with qualified healthcare or fitness professionals before starting any new exercise program or making changes to your current routine.
And so flexibility is not stretching, because when we feel stiff, we don't want to be pulling on those tissues. We want to be working around them to get fresh fluid in there. Then, as the fresh fluid is in there, soreness increases. And when soreness increases, we take on flexibility work.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Unlock Potential. I'm Brian Delaney. Our focus this season is fitness. I'll be joined by Dr. Duvall, who's going to guide us through his protocol for getting into your best shape so we can live our best lives and serve others well.
Welcome back to Unlock Potential Season 2. I've got Brian back today to help me with some exercise demonstrations while we talk about how we're going to continue that healing process from the tissue damage that we've created. Title of today's episode is Flexibility is Not Stretching. And we're going to draw a distinction between why we call things flexibility and how we're going to take it on as an exercise, as well as why flexibility is not just physical, but mental, emotional, spiritual, and helps guide us through other parts of our life. We spoke last time about the tissue damage and repair process and how the nerves sense that repair process as we're going through. We've got what's known as the gate control theory of pain, which is where movement sensation and damage sensation come together at the spinal cord and the strongest signal gets through. Now, this is happening throughout all of the tissues of our body. And so we've regularly got little pockets of repair and little pockets where everything is feeling good and healthy and ready to go. And so what we want to do is we want to gather as much of this information as we can to give a clear signal up to the mind as to how our body is feeling in order to choose what exercise to take on and how to dose it appropriately. And so we spoke in a previous episode about the Limber test, and the Limber test is doing just that. It's helping us gather information from all of our tissues so that we can use our main symptom to guide us into a style of exercise. Irritations are often stiffness, which is associated with the tension of the body around a healing area. We choose stamina for that because when stiffness is the main thing that we feel, we want to get fresh blood supply to that area. The fresh blood supply helps us bring in more of that inflammatory process. More and more inflammation will make us more and more sore. And so that increase in inflammation means we need to sweep that inflammation out. And so sweeping that inflammation out is going to have us take on flexibility work. And so we're going to get into that in just a little bit and show you how to sweep it out. But we also spoke last time about how memories and emotions, about times we ignored those discomforts and those sensations in the past, led to pain, and pain amplifying what we're feeling in the moment. And the way to calm that pain and to calm that amplification is through breath work, which is actually what we take in flexibility work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for us to remember why the stamina. We did stamina in another episode, and it's like, okay, your heart goes pump, pump, pump. It's really pump, pump. Right? It's got the double pump. And then so we know that's how the heart already moves blood. So now we need to work alongside that in synchronicity with that, right? Is sync up with our heart and start to pump the body. And you saw that with me being out of breath in the last episode, sweating a little bit, right? It wasn't because it was hard work. It wasn't because it was because my body was moving and pumping for the second time today, and we surprised it a little bit, right? Yes. We jumped it out, but the most important thing is we start to move blood, water, salt, we start to move those white blood cells into the area. When we sync up with our hearts, our body with our hearts, we start to move things, right? And then all these principles that you've been teaching, and I hope you guys have enjoyed learning directly from Corey as much as I do. It's that don't try to understand everything at first. Try to do it first. And then once you do it with your body, the understanding of the mind follows. But when we sync up these principles that are working outside of us, what we're going to find is we're going to find a similar effect. So if I want to get energy moving, I'm going to sync up with my heart that provides the blood. If I want to move things outside of myself, I've got to do it fast. And I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs here, and I know there's a lot of people who are doing business that you're like, well, how does this apply to growing my business? Learn how to move fast. Learn how to move fast. Don't worry about making the right decision. Make your decisions the right way with the right value set. People will follow. You're going to recruit healing into your business. You're going to recruit movement and motion into your business, which is going to fix repair a lot better than focusing on that one place of repair, right? And this is how it just layers, because it's essentially just fractal. Everything that happens in small ways inside of our body, that's going to develop a pattern for us as long as we're willing to listen, learn, and act in order for us to create healing outside of us. Now we can spend all this time dealing with the memory and emotion of pain outside and fighting against that and focusing on how do I create a good culture? Or you can just grow. You can just grow. You can introduce breath. You can introduce ways of metabolizing emotion and anger through strength work, right? All of these have direct parallels. What we're asking you to do is not do one thing in the gym or think about your body in one way and then do everything the exact opposite. We're learning an ethos for how to live, how to work, how to create energy, how to create momentum, how to invite healing into the system, and to be able to metabolize those emotions that are from the past, metabolize damage that's from the past. And the quicker we can metabolize that out, the quicker we can find that new opportunity for growth, for resilience, for strength, for the ability to take the next steps as a person, right? And what it starts with, it all starts with showing up. So I'm going to show up and be Corey's professional demonstrator today for flexibility. And I love this. I think this is going to, we might finally get hate online for flexibility is not stretching. Yes. I love this. Yes. Just like stamina is not endurance. Wait till we unload that one on them. Uh-huh. That's good, but I'm so glad that you guys have joined us. Think about where these principles apply, not only in your fitness, not only in your body, but in your ability to fit outside, your ability to grow something that's beautiful, impactful, that's going to help you to make the changes within yourself, which are naturally going to come out and make changes in your outside environment. We're going to help you do that today. We're going to help you do that in the gym and in your business, in your relationships, as long as you follow along with us. So join us for this.
Good to have you back, Brian.
Yeah, good to be back. Always. Yeah, for sure.
So we're going to redo the limber test. We're going to go over those finer points as a reminder for people. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to get into a few different flexibility poses. We're going to learn how we manipulate the body to find different ways of achieving the same task.
That's right. And with the limber test, I want to give a few cues because before I would go to the gym, I would read what my options were for workouts today. I thought it was multiple choice. Yeah. Right. It was like, oh, I really like that one. Oh, one leg, knee to overhead. Get the hell out of here. I'm not feeling that way, whatever way that is. Right. Mm-hmm. So don't preload yourself. Don't put prejudice into your life about how you're going to feel when you get to the gym, because all you really know is how you feel now and how you felt before. You don't know how you will feel unless you trap yourself into a rut. So give yourself the opportunity to use the limber test as kind of a satellite dish or an antenna that's going to start picking up these slight signals inside of your body that are going to help you to refine and develop a level of awareness, which is going to be the key. It's not going to be your ability to consciously fix problems. It's going to be your ability to develop awareness. The limber test is the way to do that. That is the satellite to pick up the signals from the body.
Well put.
Yeah. Awesome.
So for the limber test, I'm going to have you stand right there and put the feet together. And it starts with a reach up overhead. What this does is this recruits as much of the musculature at the peak of his posture as we can. And then we're going to go down to try to achieve the task of touching the knees and coming back up. As he touches the knees and comes back up, he's going to be able to move different joints around his spine. He's going to be able to move his shoulders, elbows, and wrists in different ways. He's going to be able to move his hips and knees in different ways. And if we have particular areas that are very irritated, he's going to have the option to move a little differently and not irritate those areas and recruit other parts of his body. Now we're going to go down. You successfully touch the knees. Let's touch the toes. And we come back up. And so level 1, if we achieve, we go to level 2 and we start doing toe touches. Again, finding many different ways in which he can adjust and feel more or less comfortable. Trying to pick up all of those signals of the body, all of those little pockets of tension, all those little pockets of inflammation as his body's going through a healing process. So after level 2 is achieved, we go down to level 3. So the palms on the ground. And back up. Level 3, palms on the ground. So as he's going through this, he might have a set where his knee is a little uncomfortable and he shifts. Now he reduces the irritation on the knee and feels a little more comfortable and is able to achieve that. And when he achieves level 3, he goes down to level 4, which is the elbows on the ground. And so he's reaching up overhead to get that full height of the posture. And functionally, he's trying to get his elbows to the ground, which is that fully compressed version of his posture. Now, as people go down, they might bend their knees more or less. They might keep the knees closer or move the knees wider. They might roll up onto the toes or keep the feet flat. They might have rounding of the upper body or the middle part of the spine or the lower back. They might feel comfortable looking up more or looking down more, rotating a little left or a little right. We're not necessarily trying to move in those ways. We're trying to accomplish the task and then seeing what signals we get as we try to accomplish that task. So after a handful of those tests, if we say, ooh, stiffness was the main thing I felt, we go to stamina work. If you feel stiff, that's protective tension while you're healing. So if you start pulling on those tight areas, we're teaching the body that it shouldn't protect while we're healing. And we reduce that protection. We tell it we don't trust the fact that it needs to heal. And we expose it to more and more damage. And so flexibility is not stretching, because when we feel stiff, we don't want to be pulling on those tissues. We want to be working around them to get fresh fluid in there. Then, as the fresh fluid is in there, soreness increases. And when soreness increases, we take on flexibility work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what you have told me before is stamina is expansion of our comfort zone, right? Whereas flexibility is expansion of our breathing. Those are the two focuses. And think about the applications for yourself. I think about these on a regular basis. There are times where I'm stiff, where I'm rigid. Tori asked me, hey, you want to go do something? I'm like, no, not really. No, that's not what I want to do at all, right? But probably what I should do is just act quick, go do it, but give myself some room. Like, not have to push myself, not have to do it. I forget what comedian says it, but the only thing that's better than making plans is breaking plans, right? So, but when I'm sore, when I'm hurting, when I'm out of place, when I'm in that spot, do I really need to be pulling on myself? When I know I need some time alone, when I know I don't need to go out to that thing or go do that thing, or when I'm in that place where I'm alone and I really need to be around community, right? Where I shouldn't push myself in that place. I should learn how to breathe. I should get those basic pieces back online. That's really key. Here, what we're doing is we're recognizing, do I need some quick action that I don't have to think about, that's within my comfort zone, that I'm going to give myself breaks when I lose my breath? Or do I need some time to put into the repair, get some oxygen back into the system, give myself some quieter time so that we're not getting closer and creating more and more of this damage, right?
Exactly.
And so I just want to encourage you, if you're in business, if you're in anything that requires a lot of you, whether that's parenting, relationships, business, whatever it is, that don't put yourself into a position where you are recognizing the symptoms and acting against them, because then you'll 100% of the time be at your 60%. And that's the key for most people when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships, is that it doesn't need more from you. It just needs more of you. And what that means is when it's time to move, it's time to move. And when it's time to repair, it's time to repair. When it's time to work, we work. When it's time to rest, we rest. We don't work while we're supposed to be resting or rest while we're supposed to be working. We do the right things at the appointed time. And when we're not sure what to do, we just do the next right thing. We don't prejudge ourselves in order to put ourselves into a corner. We give ourselves the grace and space to make good decisions that are going to allow us to be of optimum use to ourselves and others for the longest period of time. And that's what we're talking about, is taking these signals and not just using them in the gym, but using them in the gym as a starting place. And then little by little, you'll start to be able to take them out to the gym. And that's where I am now, is I'm starting to take these principles out to the gym to increase my intensity when it's time to be intense, longevity when it's time to have that longevity, and my vitality when it needs to be there as well, right? So reading and responding, that's what we're giving you the opportunity to do through not only these definitions, awarenesses, but movement as well. Hey everybody, Brian Delaney here. I hope you've been enjoying our second season of Unlock Potential as Corey and I break open some great fitness advice as well as just other life advice that we know is going to help you and add a ton of value. If you're just a casual listener, soak up the content we're bringing you. It's exceptionally valuable content at no cost to you. But if you're like me and you're like, I want the next levels, I want more information, I want more in depth, I want the extra content, come join us as one of our Patreon subscribers. Support the channel, get to the next level, and unlock your potential.
So as Brian went through those limber tests, he found that his main symptom was some soreness, which guided him towards flexibility work. And flexibility work differs from strength work and stamina work like we've done in the past. And so we're going to take this time right now to go over a few different variations to talk to you about the essence of what this flexibility work is. We define flexibility work as the willingness and capacity to accomplish the task in many different ways. So what I'm going to give you is a position.
Okay.
And you're going to try to achieve that position many different ways. Now, because it's flexibility work, we're looking for the edge of the comfort zone. And so we're going to take time to find one edge of that and then work our way around to all of the different edges.
Okay.
When we go into flexibility work, there's two main styles. One is like a peak, where you're looking to build your body with a piece on the ground and a piece reaching towards the sky.
Okay.
And then there's another style that are platforms, where there's going to be two pieces on the ground and you're looking to create a platform or a plank between those two spots, thus expanding along the ground as opposed to expanding up towards the sky.
Makes sense.
So the first one we're going to do is called belly on ground, forehead elevated.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is get your belly on the ground and you're going to say, okay, how can I organize my body to get my forehead up towards the sky?
Okay. Arms, no arms?
You, in a peaked style, you're allowed to use any part of your body to support this process.
Okay.
So your hands can be on the ground. They can be out in front of you. They can be behind you. They can even be on elbows on the ground and support your jaw. Exactly. Uh-huh.
Just like a class photo.
Exactly.
Are you going to put the blue background behind me?
With the little sparkles.
That's right. That's right.
So as you achieve one variation of this pose, you're going to take your eyes and you're going to move them in one direction. And as you reach the edge of the comfort zone in that direction, you're going to turn your head so your eyes can go farther. And as you reach the edge of the comfort zone there, you're going to start to expand your breath by exhaling more completely. And when a breath comes in, you're going to pause with an open airway. And as you expand that breath, you're calming your nervous system. You're reducing any emotional amplification of the irritations in your body and allowing yourself to be more aware of all of the different variations of this position. The eyes can go in a different direction. The head can go in a different direction. The hands can support differently. The legs and feet can support differently. The fullest expression of this would have just the lowest part of your belly on the ground with your head high towards the sky. Now, the reason we move the eyes and head to start our flexibility work is there are so many position sensors through the jaw and through the neck that show us all of the opportunities of different ways of moving. And so finding all of those different ways of achieving this position helps us to navigate life a little differently each time. We start to notice discomfort. We can make small adjustments to help drain areas, to help expand areas and grow different areas. Now, the belly on the ground can be used to help elevate pieces like the forehead. And we can also transition to belly on the ground in a platform style. If we were to say belly on the ground, two hands extended. Now, in a two hands extended, we're going to actually have the hands on the ground. And to make it a platform, we're going to keep the chest off the ground. We're going to keep the arms, the elbows, and the forearms off the ground. And so easier expressions are going to have the hands closer to the belly. Fuller expressions are going to start to move the hands away from the belly.
So go here?
No, sir. We still want to keep the belly on the ground. And we want to have the hands moving away from the belly for fuller and fuller expressions.
I see.
Exactly.
I see.
And so when you reach the edge of the comfort zone with the hands in one particular way, you're going to move the eyes. You're going to move the head. When you reach the edge of the comfort zone, you're going to exhale a little more completely. And you're going to allow an inhale when it's ready, and you're going to pause with an open airway. Different ways of achieving this position are to move the hands closer together or farther apart. The hands can go together over to the left or over to the right. Fuller expressions would start to raise the upper part of the belly off the ground so that it's just the lower part of the belly. And while maintaining that, creating an arch to move the hands farther away. All the while checking in on your comfort zone. Playing with that inner edge of what you're capable of and what's still comfortable. When we do strength work, we move quickly no matter what. When we do stamina work, we move quickly and easily. So we're moving quickly but taking breaks in order to reduce discomfort. And in flexibility work, we're moving easily. So a peak where we went over first was belly on the ground, focused on the forehead going up. This is a platform, keeping the belly on the ground, but creating a platform out to the hands. Mm-hmm. We're going to transition from this to another style that actually has you up on your feet. Let's go ahead and do that. And so this position is called squat sit, one hand elevated.
Okay.
So there's 2 levels of intensity here where you get to touch the edge of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. The first in a squat sit is how deep do you squat? Mm-hmm. So as you go down, if you're having a rough day with discomfort in your knees, mm-hmm. you're able to squat a little less and find that comfortable edge, mm-hmm. and then start to move the torso around in order to wring out all of the inflammation through the thigh and all of the inflammation through the torso.
Yep.
So the inflammation around the knee has somewhere to go.
I see.
And then as that gets more comfortable, the depth of the squat can improve. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So go ahead and find your comfort edge for squatting today. Now that you're in that comfortable depth, take one hand and reach it up towards the sky. And now that you're at that comfortable edge with this expression, take your eyes in one direction, whether that's up or down, left or right. Look for the edge of comfortable, and then expand the breath. If you notice any burning or discomfort starting to crop up while you're in this position, totally okay to shift weight side to side or front to back in order to help open those drains.
Mm-hmm. And that's something where this isn't about stretching. This is about getting our central nervous system online.
Exactly.
Right. And so if you don't feel a sense of calm after you come out of these movements, when I don't feel a sense of calm coming out of these movements, I know that I missed a bit on it, because what I did was I actually caused myself extra stress by having the wrong target nailed, rather than really looking at my breathing, working out my comfort zone, resting at that top with the open airway, just giving my body, my mind, my soul, spirit, whatever you believe in, an opportunity to meet each other, because they may have been strangers for the last day. All right. Some extra stress, some tension, just even a lack of breathing. I notice myself if I go through stressful situations, I'll start to hold my breath throughout the day. Right. And just giving the body the opportunity. You're not trying to set a PR. I'm in this simply because I was feeling sore. There was probably some emotional weight trapped there as well. And so instead of self-denial, what we're doing is we're finding a new level of self-acceptance in these positions. And you'll notice Corey tells me, as you start to feel sensation that turns into pain or turns into negative, some sort of negative sensation, just to make that adjustment. So like right now, I'm feeling my right shoulder here. What a great opportunity just to switch that up and give my other shoulder. I'm starting to feel it in front of my quad here, and my hip here. So what a great opportunity to let myself rest, recapture that full expression of where my eyes are, where my head is, where my neck is, and also where my breathing is.
Exactly. So the edges of the expression are the depth of the hips for this and the height of the hand. The closer you can get the hips to the ground, the fuller the expression. At the same time, we're looking for that inner edge of the comfort zone. The fullest expression of the hand would be the maximal anatomical position from his hip all the way up. at the same time, looking for that inner edge of what's comfortable. And so all of these small, easy movements of the eyes and the head, of the torso, of the shoulder blade, of the toes and ankles, they give us options when we're in other more intense exercise. And the more of those options we have, the more capable we are of getting 2 extra reps on the intense piece, of getting 5 extra pounds on the heavy piece. All of those options give us little extra opportunities. And this is where we start to restore those opportunities that we lost.
And it gives us broader definitions that serve us better, right? It's like my definition of a squat may have been to say, well, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. It's so easy. I've got to stay in this middle place with perfect form. How many days of the week do you have that? And if that's what you need to perform a great squat, then you need too much. And what we know is that people who are successful, they need less. They need less things to go right in order for them to be right, to be all right. They don't need a whole list of things. They don't need for them to feel good in order to go to the gym, to be able to feel good in order to put in the work that they need to do. They don't need to feel good in order to communicate well. They don't need to. And so this is just your opportunity to find your options, to find all the options, to find all those places where before we considered this out of position.
Yeah.
Now we consider this a position.
Yeah.
One of the options, one of the many options that we get to choose from on those good days and those bad days, on those hard days and on the easy days, when it's familiar and when it's unfamiliar.
Yeah. So we've done 3 styles. We're going to take on a 4th now. This is going to be squat, sit, 2 hands extended.
Okay.
So we're creating a platform from your squatted position to the hands on the ground. Now, the definition of a squat sit is that your weight is through your feet. So no matter how far away the hands get, you're not actually leaning on them. You can still pick them up without falling over.
Yep. If I rotate too far forward, I start to fall forward. Whereas if I'm here,
that's exactly what we're looking for. Yep. And so we've got that squat sit, 2 hands extended. You're going to move the eyes in one direction, whether that's up or down, left or right. As you reach that edge, you're going to focus on expanding and slowing the breath. Slowing and expanding is going to start to teach you how to feel more parts of your body. And you're going to find that some of those parts get a little uncomfortable and you just adjust. Whether the hands go left or right, they go closer or farther, they spread apart or come together. Looking for the edge of that comfort zone. Expanding the breath as we're there. The expansion of the breath is a little more complete on each exhale. As the inhale comes in, we pause with an open airway. What we're doing is we're squeezing all those tissues. We're wringing out the inflammation. And because the movement is easy, we're creating very little tissue damage to repair in the future. And as we expand and slow that breath, we're shifting the body from an elevated, amplified, stressed state into a calmer state, into a more healing state. Now, after our flexibility work, if we were to redo the limber test, we may feel less sore and just stiff, in which case it's time to shift to more stamina work and get the blood flowing again. And we can go back and forth between stamina and flexibility until now the symptoms have dissipated and we feel great.
Yep.
We're good. We feel peaceful or have more energy in order to push into some other pieces.
Yeah. And here's the idea is, can we start spending time in places that we found to be uncomfortable in the past and find our breath there? Just figure out where our breath is in those spaces, because what happens is, whether it's my physical health or whatever the piece is, that I find that this idea of this perfect position, right? This perfect position needs to, we give that a rigid definition. And so before, maybe I could only, because of ankle mobility, I might have been able to get into this squat. And you might be looking at me and saying that and saying, well, I can't get down that far. It's like, I'll have a hard time staying here. It's because our bodies are put together just a little bit differently. This certain muscle, certain tendons. But what isn't different about all of us is the opportunity to get into a position that before we may have met as just a little bit outside of our comfort zone, and to find where we can move our neck, where we can move our eyes, move our face, move our neck, and find that breath. And then if you don't find that you can hold it, that where you've been before is always welcoming you back. Go back to home and then go away again. Go back to home and go away again. This isn't a forceful activity. This is meant to be a repairing activity. This is meant to be a centering activity. This is meant to give you a pattern for the rest of your day, give me a pattern for the rest of my day, about how I can find that place where when I'm sore, I get to find my breath.
Yes.
When I'm sore, I get to see all around me. When I'm sore, I get to find new opportunities and new ways of doing things without judgment.
Exactly.
Simply with the focus of breath expansion. And that's the opportunity that we want you to have. We don't want you to have these, well, it doesn't look like this, or you have some form champions on well, that's not the way it's supposed to look. This isn't the way it's supposed to look. How about movement? How about breath? How about central nervous system alignment? How about opportunities that expand our comfort zone, and just giving ourselves that opportunity to be 100% wherever we are, whether that's a mile day or a marathon day, whether you finally met that someday where you could do everything, or it's just that some today where you're like, I'm just going to get into it, because my judgment of I can't do everything that I want to do today a lot of times would put me into a position where I did nothing.
Exactly.
And this is about not having to judge ourselves that hard or limit ourselves that much.
Yep.
Yep.
That's really well put. And to conclude today's episode, what we're regularly doing is trying to bring ourselves right back to the moment. What is my experience right now? And what is the best path to take? And we've talked about that long-term future as being our fittest selves, so we are most helpful to others. We've talked about that long-term future building us towards our genetic potential. And in the past, we may have done things that limited that. And we might be experiencing injuries and illnesses. And so next episode, what we're going to talk about is what happens to the body as we take those paths. And how can we learn from that to realize where we are and shift that path. So we're going to feel into the moment. That's what the tools that we're giving you. And now we're going to educate, where are we headed and where have we come from?
It's awesome, Corey. Thanks so much. Always appreciate you.
Yeah, brother.
And just look forward to these oncoming episodes as well as the Patreon. If you haven't liked and subscribed, definitely do that. Don't miss out on this opportunity to grow yourself, to become your fittest possible, to be of maximum use to other people, and just generally to experience well-being on a level you haven't yet. That's why we're here. We want to offer that to you, share that with you from abundance, and we know we're going to be able to tap the potential of our whole audience as we continue to grow each other and grow ourselves. Check out the official Unlock Potential store, where inspiration meets style. Explore our exclusive collection of gear inspired by the transformational messages straight from our Unlock Potential podcast. From trendy apparel that embraces the power of positivity to accessories that fuel your motivation, we've got something for every go-getter. Spread the messages of empowerment, energy, and motivation that you get from the Unlock Potential podcast by grabbing your gear today.
This is the section of our brain right in the front here between our eyes that is called the prefrontal cortex. That's where we have our awareness and we make decisions. This is our limbic system. This is our memory and emotional center. This is where we have an amplification or down regulation of sensations that are coming in through the body. And then right down here, this is our on-off switch for stress and recovery. And it's a lightning fast on and a dimmer switch off. So when things are coming in, they can come right through that limbic system and trigger that stress response quicker and quicker. That's what allowed us to survive longer and longer than other animals that are less evolved. And so if we see an experience that we should be alarmed about, it's going to trigger us to be alarmed. And I love the analogy of walking through the trail and getting bit by a snake. You're walking along and you feel something grab you at the leg. You don't really think too much of it, but a few seconds later, you're like, oh, that really hurts. And a few minutes later, it's swelling up. And 6 hours later, you're getting anti-venom in the hospital because your leg has swollen. Well, that's getting stored in your memory center. So 4 years later, when you're walking along a trail and you brush a twig, your stress response goes off immediately in order to prepare you to escape that area. And so the stress response is occurring. The limbic system is triggering that on switch. Here we go. Then you look down, you're like, oh, that's not a snake. That was a twig. I overreacted. Well, now you're aware that it wasn't a snake and you have a choice. You can calm yourself or you can keep that going in an amplified state or you can ignore it altogether. And that choice can be, I'm going to slow my stress right now. And the section of the brain right here has fibers that go through the emotional center down to the brainstem, right at the spot where our breath is. And our breath is that on-off switch. It's that trigger on, it's that dial dimmer switch down. So if I am aware that I'm stressed and I know that I don't need to be, I have the ability to not pay attention outside, but pay attention inside and start to turn that dimmer switch down.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Unlock Potential. For exclusive content, make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. Follow us across all socials at The Brian Delaney and visit our website at thebriandelaney.com to shop our gear and see what's coming up next.